At my son's school play, my in-laws took all the front row seats without telling me. When I asked where I should sit, my mother-in-law said, "Back row suits you. You're not the real parent anyway." I sat behind a pillar, holding back tears. Later, my husband said, "Don't make a scene, it's just how she is." So I made one, by requesting the footage from the school's camera system and posting it online. My name's Erin. I live in Galesburg, Illinois, with my husband Ryan and my stepson Jason. I've been in Jason's life since he was 5. His mom, Jessica, left when he was just 4, moved to another state, barely calls. I never judged her for it. Some people aren't made to be parents. I stepped in because someone had to, and because I fell in love with this sweet little boy who used to curl up beside me with his stuffed dog and ask if I could stay forever.
So I did.
I married Ryan, I stayed, and I raised Jason. Ryan's family? They never let me forget that I wasn't blood. His mom, Janet, treated me like a babysitter who overstayed her welcome. She'd say things like, "Well, I guess we should be grateful you're around," or Jason's real mom had a softer voice. His sister, Brooke, once asked me if I ever felt guilty pretending to be someone's mother. I kept quiet. I didn't want to cause problems. I kept thinking, Ryan sees how they treat me.
He'll say something.
But he never did. It was Jason's 3rd grade play last Friday night. He was the narrator in Charlotte's Web. He had memorized every line and practiced them with me every night after dinner. He was so proud, and every time we rehearsed he'd say, "You have to sit in the front so you can see my face when I say the funny parts." So I planned ahead. I left work early, changed into the sweater Jason liked, brought a flower I picked up at the gas station. I got there 30 minutes early. I walked into the school auditorium, and my heart dropped. The entire front row was full. Not by strangers. Not by early bird parents. But by Ryan's family. Janet, her husband Carl, Brooke, her husband Mike, their 2 teenage kids, even Ryan. All spread out across the front, chatting and laughing like they owned the place. I was stunned. Ryan had told me he'd meet me there because he was running late. Now I saw he just didn't want to walk in with me. I stood at the front for a second, just waiting. Maybe they saved me a seat? Maybe they just didn't see me walk in? I said, "Hey, is there room for me down here?" Janet looked up. She gave me this smile that wasn't a smile.
You know the type. Cold and fake.
She patted an empty seat next to her. I felt a second of relief until she said, "Oh, this is for Jessica. You know, Jason's real mom." Then she turned to Brooke and added, "We saved one just in case she decided to show up." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, frozen. She looked back at me, smiled a little wider, and said in this syrupy tone, "Back row suits you. You're not the real parent anyway." It felt like someone punched me in the stomach. I looked over at Ryan. He didn't say a word, just stared at the floor like a little boy caught doing something wrong. I couldn't speak. I turned around, walked to the back, and sat behind a huge concrete pillar. I couldn't even see the stage. I held Jason's flower in my lap and stared at the floor while his little voice echoed through the auditorium. My eyes stung the whole time. I didn't want anyone to see me cry, so I just kept my head down. After the play, Jason ran up and said, "Why weren't you in the front?" I kept waving. I hugged him and said, "I saw everything. You were amazing." He believed me. I don't know if that made it better or worse. Later, Ryan came over. I thought maybe he'd say something, apologize, explain. But he just whispered, "Don't make a scene. It's just how she is. You know that." He turned away before I could even respond. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I thought about every birthday I planned, every sick day I spent with Jason, every lunch I packed, every time he called me Mom without thinking. I thought about that cold smile on Janet's face and how Ryan just stood there. The next morning, I went to the school office. I told them I thought I lost something and asked if I could look at the footage from the play. I said I might have dropped a necklace near the front. The janitor was the one who helped me. He pulled up the camera feed from the main hall. It showed everything. You could see me walk in, smile, say something to Janet, and the way her face changed when she said what she said. You could see me walk away, alone. I asked if I could take a few screenshots. He shrugged and said sure. That night, I posted a 5-second clip from the footage. Just the part where Janet says it. I didn't mention names. I didn't tag anyone. The caption read, "My stepson begged me to sit in the front row for his school play. His grandmother told me, back row suits you. You're not the real parent anyway." I raised that boy since he was 5. I sat behind a pillar and cried while my husband said, "Don't make a scene. It's just how she is." So I made one. It blew up overnight. By the time I woke up the next morning, the post had over 50,000 shares. My phone was blowing up. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. I didn't answer any of them. Jason was still asleep, so I just sat in the kitchen with my coffee and watched it all unfold. The comments were coming in nonstop. Most people were furious on my behalf. Other stepmoms were sharing their own stories, saying, "You're the real parent." Some were tagging news outlets. A few were even asking for Janet's name. I didn't reply to any of it. By noon, Ryan came storming into the kitchen with his phone in his hand. "What the hell did you do?" he hissed. I just looked at him. I posted the truth. "You're humiliating my family." I put down my cup.
They humiliated me.
"You let them." He stared at me, and for the first time in our marriage, I didn't care what came next. He started pacing. "You need to take it down. My mom's getting calls. Brooke's kids are being asked about it at school. Then maybe they shouldn't have treated me like garbage in public." His jaw tightened. "You blew this way out of proportion." It was one comment. "No, Ryan," I said, my voice calm. It was 10 years of comments. That one was just the final straw. He didn't say anything. Just stood there, like he was trying to decide between yelling or walking away. I looked at him. "Do you even believe I'm Jason's parent?" He didn't answer. That silence told me everything. Later that week, I got a call from the school principal. He wasn't angry. In fact, he said, "Honestly, I'm sorry you were treated like that. We didn't realize something like this was happening at our event." He said the school board had received multiple complaints. Some parents were saying the footage showed favoritism or bullying. One teacher even told me, "I always thought you were his mom. You're the only one we ever see with him." It stung. It meant everything I did had been noticed. Just not by the people who should have seen it. That afternoon, Ryan came home and told me his mother was having a nervous breakdown over the post. She wanted to talk. I told him I didn't owe her a thing. He said, "Can't you just apologize for posting it publicly?" I laughed. "You think I should apologize?" He didn't answer. Again. A few days later, I got a message request on Facebook from someone I hadn't heard from in years, Jessica, Jason's biological mother.
I didn't know what to expect.
We'd never had any serious contact. She never tried to interfere. I always assumed she was too busy starting over somewhere else. But her message stopped me cold.
"Hey,
I saw your post.
I am sorry."
I've always been grateful Jason had you. I know I wasn't there, but I see now how badly they've treated you. I can talk to them if you want. You shouldn't be going through this." I stared at her words for a long time. The real mom the in-laws worshipped? She saw me. She thanked me. She offered to defend me. Janet? She was still silent. 3 days after her message, Jessica showed up at our door. I didn't know she was coming. Ryan answered it. His face went pale when he saw her. "Jessica," he said like he'd seen a ghost. She walked right past him. She looked different, tired, worn down, like life hadn't been easy. But when she looked at me, she smiled softly. I wanted to talk. In person. I let her in. Ryan hovered in the hallway like a scared child. Jessica sat across from me at the kitchen table, took a deep breath, and said, "I'm sorry. I wasn't a good mom back then. I left. I thought I was doing everyone a favor by staying gone. But I always knew Jason was lucky you stepped in. I just never had the guts to say it." I didn't know what to say. I'd spent years hearing about her like she was some perfect memory. Now she was here, saying the one thing no one else ever did. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "I saw the video. I saw how they treated you. I'm done letting them use me as an excuse to tear you down." Then she did something I didn't expect. She called Janet.
On speaker.
"Hi, Mom," she said when Janet answered. "Yeah, I'm in town. I'm at Aaron's house." I could hear Janet freeze on the other end. "Aaron's the one raising Jason," Jessica continued. "She's his mom.
Not me.
I want you to treat her that way, or I'm done with you too." The line went quiet. Then Janet said something like, "You don't understand." "No, you don't," Jessica cut her off. "You don't get to throw the word real around when you've done nothing but shame the only person who's shown up for that boy every single day." She hung up. Ryan looked stunned. Jessica stood up, gave me a small hug, and said, "Thank you for everything. Jason deserves better than what this family has done to you." And then she left. You'd think Ryan might have finally stood up for me after that. But later that night, he came into the bedroom and said, "You and Jessica made me look weak." I just stared at him. "You embarrass my family. Now my mom's talking about cutting us off." I stood up.
Good.
His face twisted. "You're being spiteful." "No," I said, my voice calm. "I'm done pretending. You've let them treat me like a stranger for years. You said nothing. You watched me cry behind a pillar and you didn't even blink." He tried to argue. Said I didn't understand how complicated family is. I told him, "It's not complicated. It's cruel, and I'm done playing along." That night, he slept in the guest room. The next day, Jason asked why Daddy was mad. I told him, "Sometimes grown-ups need to figure things out, but I'll always be here for you." He nodded, hugged me tight, and said, "You're my favorite mom." That nearly broke me. Turns out people in a small town do talk. Within a week, 3 different people told me they'd seen the video and realized who Janet was. Parents at Jason's school were cold to her. The church she always bragged about? Someone played the clip during a meeting. A few members even called her out for her unchristian behavior. Brooke's daughter told a classmate she was embarrassed to go to school because Grandma made everything worse. Janet called Ryan, crying. She said she wanted to make things right. I told him, "She's had 10 years to do that."
He didn't defend her this time.
Just sat there, quiet. I could feel the power shift. But I wasn't done yet. 2 weeks passed. Janet tried calling me directly, twice. Left voicemails saying she missed her grandson and wanted to move forward. I didn't respond. I wasn't interested in fixing something that was never real, to begin with. Then Ryan asked if we could have a sit-down with his family. He said, "They're finally ready to apologize." I said, "It's too late." He pushed. "Please, for Jason. Let's just put this behind us." I stared at him. "Jason's fine. He's thriving. You're the one who can't move on unless Mommy forgives you." He looked angry. "You're making me choose." I said, "Yes, I am." That weekend, Ryan's family showed up at our house without warning. Janet.
Carl. Brooke.
I told Jason to stay in his room and shut the door behind him. Janet stood in the middle of our living room like she owned the place. "We came to apologize," she said, "but we won't be disrespected again." I laughed. "Is that what this is? You want to negotiate your apology?" Brooke crossed her arms. "You've turned this whole town against us." I looked her in the eye.
No.
"You did that." Then I pulled up my phone. I had something they didn't expect. I had audio. Turns out, the school's camera system didn't just have video, it had sound too. And I had recorded it. The clip of Janet saying, "You're not the real parent anyway." I never posted the audio, just the muted video. But I'd been holding on to it. I looked at Ryan. One more word from them, and I post the full thing with sound. Janet's face turned red. Ryan said, "Don't." I said, "Then tell them to leave." He looked torn, like a man caught between a lifeboat and a sinking ship. Then he said nothing. That was his answer. So I turned to his family and said, "You have 5 seconds to get out of my house." They left. Angry.
Silent.
Janet looked at me like She'd been slapped. Ryan followed them out. 2 days later, I met with a lawyer. I told her everything. I didn't want to hurt Jason. I told her, he's my son, even if no court ever made it official. She helped me draw up the paperwork for joint custody. I was the one listed as his primary guardian. Ryan didn't fight it. He knew he wouldn't win. I kept the house. Jason stayed with me. Ryan moved in with Brooke. He asked once if we could try again. I asked him, would you have ever stood up for me if I didn't go public? He didn't answer. That silence was my answer again. It's been 8 months now. Jason's in 4th grade. He still calls me mom. His teacher told me he talks about me all the time during family writing day. Janet hasn't seen him since that night. Jessica checks in sometimes. She's trying. I told her I respect that. Not for me, but for Jason. As for the video, I never did post the audio. Because I didn't need to. The truth was already out there. And I had already won. Not because I embarrassed them, but because I stopped letting them decide who I was. Because the moment I chose to stop sitting quietly behind a pillar and started standing in front of one, that's when I became real. To Jason, to myself. And that's what mattered.